just a little bit of a reason why I asked for these meetings is it just establishes if there are any specific questions that you need answered, and it allows me to suggest the next meeting if there is a fit of what we provide and what you need.
Yeah. So basically, I'll give you an overview of what we do. If you are you aware a bit of what we do and what we produce here at Kuma?
Only because of Google.
Okay. So basically, what we do is it's a man named Christian Babai. He's still the president and the owner of the company. He's upstairs right now. He had this idea many years ago when the wind energy sector was developing in the Gaspésie area of Quebec. So he realized, like, obviously those wind turbines are going to need brake pads. So all of the manufacturers were buying the brake pads from Europe. So now we started selling probably around 2015, 2017, but very little. But we managed to up our production and our sales quite a bit in the last few years. So that's what we do. We make wind turbine brake pads, and we're trying to get involved also in the industrial sector and the train sector. So there's a lot of different avenues we're looking to take, but it takes time, a lot of time and a lot of effort. And obviously, to make the production of this, we have different materials, different products to make the friction material. We have the back plate, etc. We have the different models of pads as well. So that brings upon us inventory issues. And right now, we are implementing an ERP system, which is called Fidelio, and I'm hoping that's going to help us a lot with the inventory, because the way we do it now does not work. It doesn't work. We have inventory issues constantly.
Okay. There are my last count, there's over 200 ERPs that have reached into the sales effort using the web.
Okay.
That means that unless we're dealing with ERPs that are, we're going to call it known to the larger manufacturers, we don't have a clue of the ERP. Now, what does that say? That says that we believe, and we have architected all our solutions, that the ERP has information on it that's important to you and business rules that are important to enforce.
Yes.
So we put a lot of effort into identifying the touch points and make sure that we're getting the information correctly from the ERP and updating the ERP correctly. But we're just going to put that sort of like a future commitment. If this discussion goes any farther, realize that we believe your ERP has all the data that you need to run your business, and all that a warehouse management solution does is enforce those business rules.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal. That's because the ERP we are implementing, it's not cheap, right? Like, we had to pay quite a bit for it, and we're going to have monthly payments, etc. So the goal is, like, we had different meetings with different ERP systems, and they gave us a presentation of it, and we went with Fidelio because it does look very good. So I'm hoping that does do that, But like I said, I'm not going to count it having worked before having used it completely, right? We're doing our go live on December 1st. So after that, we could probably set up another meeting after that, maybe even after the holidays, and I can have more feedback on the ERP system for you. How I think it works, what it looks like, etc.
That would be wonderful. And I'm going to say congratulations, because we do implement some very large customers that don't have an ERP or have decided just to use their ERP for accounting. And it takes a real commitment to use your ERP solution well. And I say the word well because depending on who you talk to, the materials people will tell their management that this is broken and this is broken and this is broken. And the same with quality and the same with sales. There is no one. I have never met anyone, and I've been in this business leaning on 40 years, that is happy with their ERP solution. And the reason why is it is where the finger is pointed when there's any difficulties. Okay, it's often not the ERP's issue. It is a procedural issue or a paperwork issue, and I hate
Well,
paperwork.
that's what we're doing now is before we put our ERP system in place, we're trying to do everything we can to have a solid foundation before we go live. So if we're looking at all our procedures, we're trying to make sure everything is like updated and really good and solid before we do the ERP, because you know as well as I do, it's I think there's the saying is called garbage in, garbage out. So
Yeah,
you know,
that is true.
yeah,
And the bad thing is that garbage is collected weekly. And
yes,
so you have to be cognizant that if you don't maintain your bill of materials or your routings, or if you don't record production and scrap, or if you don't, if you don't do this rigorously as a planned event in everyone's day, it will get less and less accurate.
yeah,
So, since you've decided on the ERP solution, and we never change ERP solutions. Um, we 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 believe that when you decide to use an ERP solution, it changes your culture, and your culture bends into making your ERP work better or be more accurate. Usually, better and be more accurate are not the same thing, because it takes effort to be more accurate, and people, um, wrongly or rightly, uh, only put in the effort in a minimal way to get the job done. So,
yeah.
but
So if
so
I understand correctly, Bob, are you saying like with an ERP, does it lead to people being a little more lackadaisical, or they're more inclined to be more rigorous? I'm not sure I understand.
um, some, yes,
Okay.
yes, some lackadaisical is an event that occurs for an hour and a half after lunch. I mean, there are so many bits and pieces to how good your ERP works. They will only be defined by your management method of measuring its use,
Yeah.
but you won't know that till next June. I mean, takes a long time for the ERP to dance with your manufacturing rules. So, how to get the most out of your ERP? Um, there is anything you can scan, anything with a barcode should be implemented in your ERP so that barcode can be scanned. This
Can.
is just
Okay.
just a general business rule. In other words, um, each container on your production line, or I'm going to call it kitting, and that's the packaging of different parts to be shipped in a single unit. But every one of those containers, and it could be a pallet, it could be a simple container, it can be something called a whip container. Those need to be labeled, and your ERP system um, should provide the tools that you can label these containers of parts um, easily. That means the line worker touched the button and it prints off a label.
Okay.
So that is one of the building blocks that I would say look for. And when you implement, and it doesn't happen at once, you may end up saying, well, we need to make sure all our containers are labeled. That helps in inventory accuracy and production reporting and scrap recording and all those other things. And that's just like a building block. That's a building block that we use in our solutions. So for those ERPs that don't have labeling that's easily produced, we give the user interface, the touchscreen, to produce labels in accordance to the business rules of what's being produced on that production line at that moment. Now, if you're looking at other industries, the two industries that are the most customer managed, in other words, if you sell to GM, they will manage how they want their parts to be managed and packaged and shipped to them.
General Electric.
So,
We sell a lot to General Electric, and they do that. Yep.
yes, General Electric is known for being difficult.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you ship them parts that are either the wrong parts or mislabeled parts, they will pay you a visit, especially if you're providing critical parts to their manufacturing event.
Yeah.
So in the back of your mind, since this is an expansion and you want to present your best face to your future customer, they will want to see on-demand line-side labeling. Okay, I suspect most of the ERPs being implemented today have this as a feature. So this shouldn't be new to your ERP system. And it's not necessarily implemented right away. Most people implement anything for production recording. In other words, they implement a bill of materials and a routing for your finished good parts. And that's usually a good first step, because once you have your bill of materials entered into your ERP, then you can project customer orders and drill down to the supplier orders. And that's really the function of the MRP, is you know what you can make, you know the customer orders, you know what component parts need to be put together, and you tell your suppliers, or you order those parts from your suppliers, and then everything magically comes to play, and you get a finished good part sometime down the line.
Okay.
So I literally could talk for days, sadly. And I think you're right. We should wait till you get implemented, and we should talk in January. And these types of conversations I have with a lot of smaller companies, because they don't have the experience to know what they want sort of till after the fact. And then we work with how to get the most from the ERP solution. Now, there are questions that I have about how you're going to be entering production. Do you enter it off a tick sheet? Do you enter it by scanning? And I have a lot of comments, not necessarily about your current ERP mechanism, just about best practices that many plants with lots of money do. And it may not fit for your plant. You may end up saying, I want to print an Excel spreadsheet of the customer orders that I'm going to ship on Friday and tick them off as they're built. And that's not necessarily a bad first step. So depending on your size and how much your customers will afford to pay you to meet your future goals, you either have more or less flexibility, and we can talk about that.
Can I have like a background on Blackhawk? And I know I have a general idea of what services you guys offer. Can I just have like a background on it?
I will send you we'll call it the intro PowerPoint in a couple salesy type brochures of how we literally have you mount tablets on your forklift or forklifts and scanners, and how we just scan everything around. Once you start scanning containers to locations, your inventory accuracy goes through the roof, mainly because we tell you where to put it and we tell you where to pick it up.
Okay.
So I can send you those. We haven't discussed. Can you give me your top 3 reasons your inventory is not accurate currently? And you can't use the word, well, we do it on paper. That's a big, the pencil lead is too thick for me to actually to come to any understanding from that statement.
I think right now we have too many hands. It's being transferred to too many people. It starts with me, then it goes to someone else, then it might go to someone else. So there's too many hands into it, and there's too much room for error, human error in the transfer of it.
Okay.
I would say right now,
how are you going to get rid of that in an ERP implementation?
well, the ERP, what it's going to do is now when I ask my production employees to do a production, they're going to receive that onto. We're going to have tablets at each workstation, and they're going to be able to say, okay, right now, this is what we did. And we've also implemented, because we are automized here, we implemented a counter. So the way it works is if we produce 50 pads, well, 50 pads have to be pushed into our furnace. So every time a pad is pushed into the furnace, now we have a counter, so we can go back and check. We do our count and we go and check the counter and see if everything matches up. So I do think that the ERP system is going to help a lot, because it's going to get rid of a lot of transfers. You know what I mean?
Right. So you're doing a transfer from sort of like preheat to oven, out of oven to packaging, or some type of multi-level.
No, I would just say, like, let's say in the morning, the guys come in, they count exactly what we did yesterday. They give it to me, and and I know you don't want it, but let's just say they wrote 102 on the paper,
right?
But it looks like I see 108. So then I'll write 108 to Mary France upstairs, but it looks like I wrote 105. So I think there's just too much room for error the way we do it now.
Okay. In your ERP solution, there should be a mechanism not to do quantity. Everything ends up in quantity, but you don't want to count quantities. You want to count what's in a container. If you produce multiple containers, that gives you like one container at 25, another container at 25, another container at 25, and one container at 2.
Okay.
And by splitting up your production recording, the error you're experiencing now lessens to the point of where people are used to seeing standard pack. And so anything that is other than standard pack, there's just a raise of the attention that is put on that number. So there are things that, and I hope this is true. One of the things that you want to get to is where production is recorded incrementally during the day. So if they make a standard pack of this part, and it's completed is a business rule, then that is recorded on your ERP system. And so you don't want to record yesterday's production at 8 this morning. You want to record yesterday's production as it occurred throughout the day. That way you have a live representation of failure or efficiency. I'll say it backwards. And if there's a problem, especially if you're projecting that you need these parts on any given shipment, then you will know fairly immediately, not 1 day later or 2 days later. So as you implement your ERP, the vision becomes real-time production recording within reason. And real-time scrap recording or reject for nonconformance recording.
Mhm.
That's the gain of running an ERP solution is you even though your size allows you to get away with um, non-real-time production recording. The plan is that you'll grow large enough that you can't get away with it anymore.
Yeah. We're
So,
almost there now, I'm willing to say. Like, we're getting there.
right, especially, and this is only magnified by supply chain issues. If you're waiting on on some type of material or component part, and the requirement to ship gets the window between part arrival and requirement to ship gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and you know this, you've experienced it, the that that Monday morning call when someone realizes they're going to miss a shipment requirement um, is crippling. It's and people look at it and say, well, I'll just call the customer and let them know. No, it's crippling to the company. It's emotionally crippling to the to everyone involved with normal production practices. So I think you're there. I would say, you know, if you think you're almost there now, I think you've been there for some time. And it's just that you need to decide to get an ERP and you've taken the steps. Um, but until you implement it and see the changes, both um, actual and cultural, I think you've been there for some time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's just an old man talking. Um, so, um, let's. I'll send you some attachments.
Yeah.
Who we are, what we do, who are some of our customers. They're all big hitters. It's just that I am well known for doing what I do, and the company actually reflects that. The um, I'll have Tina ask for a meeting middle of January because you're going to be hyper busy in December.
Yep. Yes, I am.
So, um, but we now have contact information and email information. I answer all kinds of questions just to retain business relationships and networking until you get to a point. Um, uh, our cost is hard to justify until you have, uh, we'll say, 5 forklifts or tugs or trains. And how many forklifts do you have?
One.
Okay, so I give you that measurement not to, I don't want to scare you. I just there is the ability to handle inventory location management, and it should be built into your ERP. Uh, it's only when the use of the ERP is not friendly enough where we come into play because we automate everything. You know, the single scanning of a label could report production to the ERP. It could move the 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 packaging into finished good location. It could
Yeah.
verify the shipping order. It could do all of that, and we automate that behind the scenes because the ERPs usually need to serve more than one customer, and so they have a lot of switches and buttons and fields you need to fill in, and you don't want that guy who's driving the forklift to do all that because they make mistakes, and so we wrap up that transaction that needs to be put on the ERP system. We wrap it up in script. So whenever your standard business practice says, um, whenever this container hits this location, I want you to record production.
Mhm.
And instead of putting those in front of the operator, we put those behind in a simple user interface, and everyone's happy. And everyone does the same thing day in and day out, and there's no questions asked. They just scan it and they're happy.
Okay.
So, so I'll have Tina work with you to sort of schedule a call, mid-January sometime.
That sounds great. Yes, thank you very
Okay.
much.
And, okay, not that this occurs, but if you need to ask me general ERP questions, since you're doing the ERP go live, I answer those. It may take me some time to get to them. But if you have questions, well, how does this normally work in automotive, or what's the standard best practice, if there is such a thing? So just drop me an email and I will answer your questions also.
Perfect. Thank you both very much. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for your time.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.